So now I will tell you from my side where I came from. I was born and raised in a small town of Midvale, Idaho. When you're growing up, you really don't realize how much you really have. But growing up, we didn't really have a lot. And at that time, my dad was just getting started into the trail contracting, building trails and whatnot. A fair amount of my life growing up, we either traveled with my dad throughout the country, wherever it was, usually it was fairly close to home, or being away from my dad while he was gone. We were raised out in the country, and here we would, it's out raised in the farm, ranching life, where we grew up with animals. My dad had 50 or so head of cattle. We had probably about 20 to 25 head of horses, and that's where I grew up. We always had lots of land that we could walk on, and we just didn't have a worry in the world. We just really enjoyed life as far as with being grown up and raised out where we lived. To fast forward a few years in my life, it was year 2000. My aunt was putting together the program for all the people in our church to come together and pack Christmas shoeboxes. So this was our second year doing it. The first year, my mom just wanted to do one box because keep our costs down as far as going out and buying stuff for a box, because there was me, my brother, and my sister at that time. So the second year, which was at this time, my mom decided to do all three of us, my brother, I, and my sister, and we were going to pack all three of us separate boxes, and we got to choose the age group, the gender of the child that we wanted to send our box to, and we were to pick out all the stuff and fill that box. And when that day was coming, when we were all going to gather together at our church, Mom took us down into town, and we picked all kinds of stuff that was age appropriate for the child that we were going to select for our shoebox. We just put all kinds of things, little things inside the box. But Mom wanted to put a picture of us and put our address, and so that way whoever got our box, we could have a pen pal, someone to write to. Mom thought it would be just so cool if we had someone from a different country that we could write to, get to know, learn about their country, learn about their culture. And so we filled our boxes, we wrapped them, and then gave them to my aunt, who took them to the drop-off location. And from that point, never heard, never knew where, when, how, where the box went. And then fast forward a few years later from that, and this was my freshman year in high school. And when I first started high school, one of the things that enters most young men's minds is you want to get into a relationship with somebody. You're looking for that companion, someone that you can have that close relationship with. And through the 4 years of my high school life, had found girls that I really liked, and you get your heart broken over different things. And I can just tell you from personal experience, sometimes you need to learn some of these things yourselves, but sometimes it's just best to wait. Because one of the things is you try to take things too far. And where dating is fine, but you need to know at a good age when that is acceptable. Go out and get to know them is the best thing. Not this intimate kissing and hugging. That's not getting to know somebody. You need to take them out and get to actually know them, know what they like, know what they enjoy, so that way you can both understand each other. Just be friends. I mean, it's simple like that, because then you don't have this emotional, complicated stuff that just makes relationships difficult. But I didn't take my own advice when I was at that age, and I started, finding girls, looking and trying to find that relationship that I so strongly desired. Back at a young age, before all of that, my mom told me that I need to pray for the woman of my life, the one that God has specifically chosen for me. Because in Jeremiah 29:11, he says, I know the plans that I have for you. Because the Lord knows your life. He knows from the time that you were, before you were conceived, to the time of the end of your life. The Lord knows your life. So my mom told me that I need to sit down and pray for the young woman of my life. And in doing so, pushed it to the next level that, I wanted to be more specific. And I prayed that, Lord, it would be cool. It would be awesome. It would be amazing to have someone who loves music like I do. I told the Lord, it would be awesome. And I'm just saying this, paraphrasing this in the sense that I didn't pray all of this in one prayer. This was in a series of prayers throughout my young adult, young childhood life that I prayed that. And I prayed that her birthday would be in the same month as mine. Some people might be, oh, that's kind of weird. But, that was, for me, something I prayed about. I prayed that, and this was an important thing to me, is that she loved Christ with all her heart. And that was very important to me. And then the other thing was that was she be Asian. Well, it's something about the dark hair, the brown eyes, the complexion. Kasi in the US, we're all white. Most of us are white, or some of us are white. A few of us are white. And we like to be tan or darker in complexion.
Is it the opposite in the Philippines?
You
want to be white. You want to have fair skin.
But, just those were kind of the specifics that I prayed for. And, I never, wasn't expecting them to happen right then and there. But I felt, at times, I felt like being like Abraham in the Bible, wanting to step forward and help things move along.
Sorry.
Okay. So after experiencing several heartaches and teary moments because of broken heart, it was November 15 of 2011. I got back home from school very late. And the reason for being very late from school was I was very, very involved in school. I would usually show up at school about 6:30 in the morning, and I usually wouldn't get back till about 6 o'clock in the evening, and that was literally from Monday to Friday. And so one evening, November 15th, that year, my mom actually allowed me to have a Facebook, and got on the computer and was curious to see what was going on, what everybody else had to post. And so I got on Facebook and was looking to see what was going on, if there was any new friend requests. And I noticed that I'd had a new friend request from a young woman in the Philippines. So out of curiosity, which I didn't realize that it would be something that changed my life, but out of curiosity, I messaged and asked, how do you know me, or how do I know you? And that's when she responded that, do you know anything about Samaritan's Purse? And when she responded back with that, I had no idea at the time. It had been so long ago, 11 years ago. I went upstairs because my mom was at the time cooking supper, getting everything ready for us to come together and eat. And I went upstairs, I'm like, hey Mom, what is Samaritan's Purse? And my mom's just like, oh, that is back when we were packing those Christmas shoe boxes. And when Mom mentioned the Christmas shoe boxes, all the memories just come flooding back of going to the store, buying these stuff, these toys, clothes, school supplies, and putting them in these boxes, wrapping them, and then shipping them off. And when she had mentioned that, it's like, oh, I remember. So I run back down, get on the computer, and message back to her that, yes, I did that when I was 7 years old, and that packed some shoe boxes. And then she responded back saying, I think I might have gotten your box. After she had responded back to that, saying, I think I got your box, I got to thinking, so what would be a way of proving this? That she got my box.
Kasi you thought it's a scammer.
Yeah, well, because, I mean, I had my mom, my mom told me, I guess I should back up a little bit. After Mom told me that I did this when I was 7 years old, and then right after, Joanna messaged back to me and said that she got my box. So after she had mentioned to me that she had gotten my box, I went upstairs and told Mom that the person who had gotten my box might have found me. And my mom was a little excited, but yet also very hesitant. She's like, now you need to be careful. And I'm like, okay. Because she's like, there are scammers out there where people are out there to take advantage of other people. And like, oh yes, Mom, I know that. And so, I'm fine. I'm a tough student here. I can take care of myself. So I run back down there and I'm thinking, what is the best way that we could find out whether if this is real or not? And I thought to test her. So I messaged back asking her if there's anything in the box that she might remember that I might remember that was in the box. So I'm like, okay, is there anything that you remember in the box that I might remember?
And I said, I don't remember everything that was there because that was a long time ago. But I didn't show you the picture right away, or
no.
I just said there's a picture and the name and address.
Mm-hmm. And after she had mentioned that there was a picture, I remembered a picture flooded back into my memory that I remember sticking in the box. And I said, okay, can you describe the picture to me? Well, she described it as...
It's a little boy with a wooden background and the rope hanging on
potatoes.
The shoulder.
And after she had said that, I knew the exact picture she was talking about. So I went upstairs and found my mom's box of pictures that she has taken over the years of me and my brother and my sister growing up. So we have all these pictures to choose from these packets that we gotten from elementary school, from school photos. And we'd taken one of those pictures and we put it in the box. Well, after she told me that, I took the picture, laid it out, took a picture of it, and then I sent it to her. And when I sent it to her, she's like, that's the picture. Because that was the exact picture she described to me. So after that moment, after we realized that, she definitely got in my box, we started talking every day. Whether if it was, just talking to each other about how's our day, what were we doing. And we spent hours and hours of time talking to each other just through Facebook Messenger. And instead of me showing up to school bright and early, I wasn't late. I was hardly ever late to school, but I would spend most of my mornings talking to her, not getting a complete breakfast some of the time, usually missing breakfast, just taking the time to talk to her. And after, once it was time for me to go to school, I'd head off to school, and I would be at school all day just thinking about getting back so I could talk to her. I was so involved with school that I was usually there till late, because I took about every course that I could get into, and I got involved in about every music program that I could get into. I took piano lessons for 1 year. I was in bell choir. I was in choir. I was in select choir. I was in the band. And I was very, very involved in music. But at the end of my day, I would go home, and that was the first thing. Instead of doing my homework like I was supposed to, I would spend most of my evening talking to Joanna. And to the point at many times when I was sitting there chatting with her, holding my phone, chatting to her, I would fall asleep while I was chatting to her. So the next morning, when I woke up, I'd get a stern message from her saying, "What happened to you? Why weren't you messaging me?" After spending an entire year talking to her, I decided that I wanted to do something that I could try to come and visit her in the Philippines. Right after I graduated in 2013, I bought a plane ticket, even though my parents were a little reluctant, just because they didn't like the idea of me traveling by myself. My dad told my mom that, I'm old enough now that I can make my own decisions. And so I paid for my own ticket and flew to the Philippines for the first time. And I think one of my best memories from that moment is when I got off the airplane and met Joanna for the first time. And we held hands. Walking through the airport, not knowing where to go, I stepped outside, and that was the one thing that stood out to me. It was like her big smile. Kind of shy smile, but like really excited.
Yeah. Shy smile. And then, because I was holding a banner, it says "Welcome, Tyrell."
Yeah. And getting to meet her and her family, her cousins, and all her friends for the first time was just like big, overwhelming excitement, and getting to try new things, new foods. Spent a short time there, and then on my first visit, I had asked her father in Tagalog if we could date.
You still remember?
Oh, wait lang.
Ano?
Did I even ask in Tagalog? Ask?
Oh, hindi pala.
Hindi.
For ano yun?
Okay. So, actually, I'm sorry. So, the first time asking her father for permission to date her, I actually asked her father in English. So I asked her father if I could date her, and he said no problem. Then on my second visit, which was in 2000 spring, well,
That's 2013 Christmas.
yeah, Christmas of 2013 and New Year's of 2014. Came back and spent Christmas with her and her family and New Year's. And in that time frame, I had asked her father in Tagalog if I could marry Joana.
Sample.
Oh.
Sample.
Papayag po ba? Ano yun? Papayag po ba anak na si Joana? Kayo anak na si Joana.
Napakasalan.
Nakapasalan ko si Joana.
Kalimutan mo.
It took me a little while, and I spent a lot of time practicing, and asked him if I could marry Joana, and he's, smile, shaked his head yes, nosebleed. But then Joanna's mother came to me and said that it's kind of like a hasty thing, and that he kind of wants us to wait, which was no problem.
Yeah, kasi you were 20, no?
Yeah.
And I just turned 21 that time. And my parents thought that
We were still a little young.
We're still young.
So after that, they wanted me to wait. But then before I left, Mama and Papa told me that for us to be able to get married, they wanted to meet one of my family members.
Kailangan daw munang mamanhikan.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tradition in the Philippines, yung mamamanhikan first.
Yes. So when I got home, I had a lot of convincing to do. A lot. Because my sister is handicapped from after having gone through cancer. I couldn't bring both of my parents. I could only have one of them come. My mom, who's extremely afraid of flying and afraid of, going outside of the country, it wouldn't really work for her. The only option I had, real option I had, was my dad. And my dad has never ever been outside the country, and he had no desire to go. As for to put it in perspective, a comment a lot of my family members, like my grandpa or my dad, will use that if I haven't planted anything there, there's no reason for me to go there. And so I spent days and days of trying to convince my dad. And my mom finally talked him into it. And my dad said, he finally said, I will go under one condition. And his condition is he wanted to stay on U.S. territory all the way out to the Philippines. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'll do that. And bought an airplane ticket where we would fly, and we would stay on U.S. territory up to the point where we would fly into the Philippines. And it was a little more expensive doing it that way, but we did it. I got my dad there. He spent 10 days, and my dad cannot stop talking about that little bit of time that he spent there. Really, really enjoyed it. Loved every bit of being there. The heat was about ready to kill him, but he loved it. Especially when we got to go to the ocean, enjoy several days down by the ocean. Really enjoyed it. And my dad flew home by himself on his way back, and I stayed a little longer to spend more time with Joanna and her family. And I couldn't have asked for more. it was just a beautiful, beautiful
Oh, we
time.
had the engagement party.
Oh, and yes, I forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
We had while my dad was there, we had a engagement party and invited all the friends and relatives to gather together, and we ate food, Filipino food, delicious food.